Time to wake up. It's Saturday morning. Find some milk and cereal. Grab a bowl and spoon. No, a bigger spoon. Head to the living room and take a seat on the floor while Joseph and Chris present to you Saturday Morning Cartoon!
Hello everybody, welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoon Boom! This is Short Week with the Saturday Morning Sun, popped on all 4 big gold sugar cereal. I'll try your favorite cartoons, both old and new. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
And this morning, we watched Rick and Steve, the happiest gay couple in all the world. I feel like there's a little bit of irony to the happy part.
Yeah, it's not super happy all the time.
I mean, I guess it's just like any relationship, though. It's pretty, it's kind of dysfunctional, but it kind of always, in the end of each episode, it's everybody's kind of happy.
Exactly.
Yeah, everyone's resolved.
Mostly happy at the end of each.
Mostly happy, yeah. The mostly happiest couple in all the world.
Except for Chuck.
Oh, yeah, Chuck's not happy, but Chuck has reason. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Who suggested this to us?
This was actually, I don't remember exactly how we got on this. I just remember us discovering the name of this, and we decided we needed to add it to the list because it sounded hilarious. And we did. So that's how we got it.
Nice. Well, whoever suggested it to us or mentioned it in passing or whatever, thank you.
Thank you.
It was an experience.
Yeah.
So the show Rick and Steve, the happiest gay couple in all the world, I feel like I need to say the whole thing every single time I mention the show's name. Yeah, you do. Yeah, okay. So the show Rick and Steve, the happiest gay couple in all the world, ran from 2007 to 2009, created by Q Alan Braca, produced by Cup of Coffee Studios, ran for 2 seasons, 14 episodes on the Logo TV network, as well as Teletoon in Canada. For a short synopsis, the show follows the lives of 3 gay couples, the titular Rick and Steve, Chuck and Evan, and Dana and Kirsten, as they live in their fictional gay ghetto of West Lahunga Beach and interact with their friends and family.
I love it. The premise itself just sounds funny, and it is. It's great.
Yeah. I didn't know what I was getting myself into watching this, but man.
Yeah. And let's put a quick disclaimer.
Oh, yeah.
Any kids, this is probably not the one for you. Every once in a while, we end up with a very adult themed cartoon, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
So, like, everyone repeat with me. Chris and Joseph have warned me not to listen to this episode if I am too young to listen to this episode because of the adult themes, and I will not tell my parents on Chris or Joseph because they are cool and don't deserve that bullcrap.
Yeah, repeat that.
Feel free to repeat.
Exactly. Yeah. What I was worried about coming into it was because it's got homosexuality and all kinds of things in it. I was afraid that it was going to be kind of like bashing that, but it's not. And I found out the creator, Q Alan Braca, is actually openly gay. And so he's writing this. Obviously, he's very pro LGBTQ. So it's all in good fun. It's not like a bashing of any kind of sexuality or anything like that.
Yeah. And a lot of the voice actors are also in the same camp. So a few of them are a little notable, too, which we'll get into once I start talking about the cast.
Yeah. So who are the cast? Good segue.
Oh, nice. That was a segue. The voice of Rick was provided by Will Matthews, who hasn't had a whole lot on his acting resume, but he is one of the writers on the sequel that's coming out to The Dark Crystal, which is Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. Yes, there is a sequel to Dark Crystal coming.
I'm not sure why. Movie or comic or what?
I think it's going to be a Netflix either movie or show.
Oh, man.
I think a show.
Crazy.
The voice of Steve was provided by Peter Page, who was also the character of Emmett on Queer as Folk. The character of Dana was portrayed by Taylor M. Dooley. The voice of Kirsten provided by Emily Brooke Hands. The voice of Evan was Wilson Cruz, who's been in lots of television. He was Ricky on My So-Called Life, Victor in Party of Five, Dr. Hugh Culber in the new Star Trek series Star Trek Discovery, and also plays Dennis on 13 Reasons Why. And finally, the last voice I'm going to talk about here, the voice of Chuck, who was my favorite of the bunch, was Alan Cumming, who played Boris in GoldenEye, Nightcrawler in X2, X-Men United, Eli Gold on The Good Wife, and Dr. Dylan Reinhardt in Instinct.
Nice. That is a good cast.
Yeah, dude, we got Nightcrawler in here. He was awesome.
Oh, man, his character was hilarious. That was probably my favorite couple, Chuck and Evan. Oh, my gosh.
They were great.
So for Few Tasty Marshmallows, our big bowl of happy gay cereal. It is a spin-off from Baraka's 1999 short film of the same name and debuted on the LGBT-focused Logo Network in July 2007 and on Canadian Teletoon's late-night programming block The Detour that October. The animation of the original Rick and Steve shorts was done using Lego blocks and figures, prompting a lawsuit from the company, of course. And,
oh, no.
Yeah. Though the series no longer uses the Lego blocks, it still draws comparisons to both them and those by Playmobil. Yeah, like the figures, would you say, I'm not as familiar with Playmobil, I guess, but it kind of reminds me of like Duplo, I guess. Do you remember Duplo?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They remind me a lot of that. In fact, at first glance, I thought they were just using straight up Duplo figures or something.
But after a while, like I stopped looking at it like that. Like I was treating them like real couples.
Yeah, you kind of forget, honestly, just because like they're written very well, at least like in most of the episodes we watched. It's written very realistic, so it just kind of like, you know, you get sucked in and you just kind of forget what you're looking at.
Yeah. Do you think it's like stop motion? Is it like a Robot Chicken style?
Yeah, it's got to be stop motion.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Lastly, a minor controversy arose in 2008 when Carlo Nardello, an executive with the Italian RAI television network, criticized Salerno's cartoons on the Bay Animation Festival for including Rick and Steve's screening in his 2008 program. However, Rick and Steve went on to win the festival's Pulcinella Award for Best Series of the Year. So it's like this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this critic was against it, but it's against it being in the festival at all. But then it went on to win this huge award, which is
That's
awesome.
funny. So
yeah.
it like wins the whole thing. And
Yeah.
then that's awesome. That's a nice, like, you know, like kick to the shin to that guy for being a
nice
jerk.
slap in the face. Take that, Carlo.
Yeah, Carlo, get out of here.
Had you ever heard of this show before I don't know, however we heard about it?
No, definitely not. This was not on my radar whatsoever. And like when I first heard the title, I remember laughing hysterically because I was like, I know this is going to be great.
Yeah. See, I thought it was going to be something like Ambiguously Gay Duo from Saturday Night Live, but not at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I hadn't heard of it either. It was just like this weird random thing. And I was super nervous about it at first, but man, I'm glad we watched it.
Yeah. I remember you were texting me and you're like, man, I don't know if we should do this because you were worried it was going to be like bullying or something. But no, it's like, you know, it's created by lots of gay creators and voiced by some gay stars. And it's basically them portraying like their kind of normal lives, you know, albeit pretty exaggerated, and poking fun at themselves for it. So like it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, it's like a celebration of the lifestyle in a comedy fashion. And I loved it, too.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of Boondocks in that way. If you ever saw that series.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's very much like that. Very self-aware.
Oh, definitely. So let's go ahead and jump into the episodes we watched for today's show. The very first episode, highest rated episode, or finally random listener chosen episode. Order may vary depending on how these episodes fall chronologically, but of course you have to start with the very first episode, which is Guess Who's Coming for Quiche? Season 1, Episode 1. And this one, Rick and Steve's lesbian friends ask Rick to father their child.
Oh, man. So when we first started watching this episode in particular, I was starting to sweat it a little bit too. I was like, uh-oh, like what did we do? Like, what are we getting into? Because like the humor of this is so raunchy.
Yeah.
Like I recently saw Deadpool 2 and I want to say it's kind of like some of it gets on that level of raunch, you know, as far as like the sexual kind of jokes and stuff.
I would say it's above that as far as raunch goes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's parts that probably could be.
Or I guess below that, depending on how you want to look at it.
I don't know how to like it's hard because this first episode relies so much on crude humor that like I need to be really careful with the things I pick and choose to talk about.
Yeah, so just in general, it's as I said in the description of it, Rick and Steve's lesbian friends, who are Kirsten and Dana, they want Rick to father their child. And Rick is the I guess the more, I don't know about mature of the two between Rick and Steve, but he's the more grounded, I guess, and the more emotional, I suppose.
Yeah, Rick is a lot more like sensitive and empathic and kind, whereas Steve is kind of not necessarily macho, but he's kind of a bro. You know, like he's the guy that's going to be going to the gym and stuff like that, and you know, poking fun at people because like it's very obvious that him and Dana do not like each other whatsoever. In fact, I'm pretty sure they say they hate each other on multiple occasions.
Oh yeah,
because like so Kirsten is kind of like she's like the lesbian version of Rick. Like she's very grounded, she's very nice, very compassionate and sweet, and Dana's a self-described butch. And she's also kind of like, I don't know, she's very similar to Steve in that way. You know, she's kind of rough and tough and she has little to no tact. You know, she has no filter.
No. When they're together, neither does Steve.
Right, exactly. They just sling insults at each other back and forth. But what's funny is like Steve likes to make fun of lesbians and Dana likes to make fun of homosexual men, and it's just really funny because as they do that back and forth, like some of the things they say about each other like prove to be kind of true, which is funny because you know it's like holding a mirror up to themselves in that way. I love the part where like Kirsten and Dana are driving to Rick and Steve's house, and the song on the radio is like, I'm a lesbian, and it just sounded like Alanis Morissette or something.
Yeah. And
I was cracking up. I was like, okay, that's pretty funny.
And they're talking about how, oh God, I hope it's not Quiche again.
Yes. And then immediately you see like Rick and Steve pull a quiche out of the oven.
Yeah, exactly.
So, they have a cat named Pussy. And it's an interesting cat. Like, I just thought it was a normal cat until the end of the episode, and then I was like, "What?"
I have questions about this cat now.
I have a lot of questions about the
end of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's also introduce their other friends, as we kind of mentioned earlier. So you've got Evan and Chuck. Now, Evan is Chuck's Mexican lover, who is very like flamboyantly gay. Like he is.
Yeah, he's a lot younger. He's flamboyant. He's very effeminate. You know, he like, you know, they try to hit a lot of stereotypes in this. And what's funny is there's an episode that kind of talks about that specifically. But like you see some of these characters and you're like, yeah, I've met this character before, you know, and it's kind of fun that way.
And then you've got Chuck, who is okay. So I'm gonna
he's the best.
I'm gonna tell you this exactly as it was kind of described.
Okay,
he's paralyzed from the left testicle down.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is why he's in a wheelchair. And he also, on top of that, he also has AIDS. Or no, I'm sorry, he's HIV
he has
positive.
HIV. Yeah. But he constantly talks about having AIDS, even though he's technically just HIV positive.
Right.
But he's like an older, disgruntled guy.
One of the worst jokes was when like they're trying to leave the party or whatever, and he's just like, well, it looks like my AIDS are acting up. I better get out of here.
Yeah, that was funny. I also like Chuck's like mountain of prescriptions that he has to take. Like Evan starts pulling Chuck's prescriptions out to take him with dinner. But like as the characters keep talking, it just keeps piling up and getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where you can't see their faces anymore.
Yeah. Meds will keep Chuck alive forever.
That was great.
Since Steve is the more jock type of the two, or the more bro type, like, and Rick's more of the, affectionate lover, Steve very much wants a three-way. Like he's kind of pushing for a three-way whole episode, which takes them to this club called the Man Job. And I like the line that they use in here where they're looking at this guy, like they're looking at his butt or something, and then he turns around and they're just like, ugh, like they say it like he's cute from afar, but far from cute. And I like that line.
Yes. Well, it's funny too, because it's just like, you see guys like trolling for girls in the same way at clubs. So I like the duality of like how much they show you like what the gay community is like, but then also how much like the gay community is just like anybody else, you know?
Yeah, I mean, so guys are guys like regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. Guys are still pigs.
Yeah.
Did you notice that like Billy West's voice appears a lot in this show?
I was hearing that. Yeah, just different variations of it.
He played like 3 characters in this episode alone.
Yeah.
Like especially the doorman to the club was like the first time I heard him.
Yeah, without even looking it up, like I could tell, like I could hear hints of it.
Kirsten's dream. Oh God, man.
Oh, so gross.
Was so gross.
This is after she's been trying to get, Rick to donate his sperm to her so that she can birth his child, so that they can have a child together, she and Dana, without us knowing it's a dream at first. Like we just see her go to some like truck stop bathroom, rest stop 69, it's called.
Oh yeah.
And
oh God.
She sees some guys come out of it or something, or some guy come out of the restroom, and I think they had mentioned earlier, like the only reason people go to the truck stop or guys go to the truck stop bathroom is to masturbate or something.
Yes.
And so she goes in there and she's like, all right, fresh axle grease. And she just like pulls out a syringe or something. She's like, come to mama.
Siphons it up.
Yeah. It's like, oh, so gross.
Luckily she wakes up screaming and we're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
She's getting pretty desperate, and like she comes up with this idea of posing on the internet as a boy and trying to lure over another boy, I guess, like another guy, and was gonna try to seduce him into that. That blows up in her face in a hilarious way.
Oh yeah.
At the same time, Rick and Steve, like there's a song about having a threesome, which is set to some hilarious imagery of like three guys sharing a hot dog together and 3 women eating a taco together. And oh my God, they run to their favorite porn star, Dylan Rambrick, and get him to go home with them. As both things play out, it turns out that the man that Kirsten lured over while she was posing as a guy turned out to be another woman trying to do the same thing. And then it turns out that Dylan Rambrick ends up being a woman as well. I did not see that coming. I was like, what?
Yeah, he had a snap-on penis. Oh, it was pretty funny. And I like what they said after that, which was like, I'd prefer a flesh and blood child, but I could live with a snap-on child just the same.
Yeah, like, them saying, you know what, if we can't get a child, like adopting is totally fine.
Right, yeah. But a snap-on child is just a funny way to put it. A
snap-on child. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, well, and then comes the cat thing.
Yeah,
and
get to that.
Please explain, because I don't know where to go with that.
Okay, so it gets to the point where Steve is, I guess Rick and Steve have both gone to the bedroom because at this point, Rick's going to, quote unquote, donate his sperm to this.
Or as Dana says, throws a party in there.
Yeah, throw a party into this container that they've given him. And so Steve's come in there with him. And then out of nowhere, the cat just starts talking. It's like, hey, boys, you should both contribute to the child's upbringing and creation. And it says it in like this weird voice.
It's so creepy.
And then so basically he's just trying to get Steve to go in there as well to throw a party inside this container as well. And so that ends up being the case. But it's like, all that aside, this cat talking to them in this weird way, it's like, I don't think there were any drugs or anything involved. So I have no idea why that happened or if this comes up ever again. But it was just such a weird occurrence. Like I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, I had no idea. But like I was just like, I don't know what's happening. But it caught me off guard and it made me laugh, but it also made me super uncomfortable.
Yeah. So that's kind of where the episode wraps up. And essentially this cocktail, if you will,
oh, gross.
inside this container is now what's going to be used to impregnate Kirsten, or so we think.
Yes.
And then that jumps us upward to the next episode we watched for today's show, which was Save Our Seamen, season 1, episode 5. And I chose this one just because I like the name of it. It sounded funny.
Of course.
Yeah. What we see right away, though, is that it looks like Dana is pregnant with the child and not Kirsten. So
yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, we don't. In between those episodes, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but presumably, well, not presumably, like it's still the child of, either Rick or Steve or both. Who knows how it worked out? And so it opens up with them trying to figure out a name for the kid. But as a description for the episode, it says the gang goes on a disastrous gay cruise, which is pretty true.
So yeah, they get tickets to go on this all gay cruise. They get on there and they run into it was Rick's former boyfriend, Hunter.
Yep.
And oh my God, like Hunter cracks me up. So like the running gag with Hunter is he can only see Asians because Rick's Asian, but Evan like thinks he's super high. Evan and Chuck have an open relationship, and Evan is like trying to get this dude's attention the whole time. And like he'll say something and Hunter just starts looking around and then walks off. It's like he literally can't see him. And then cruise director Felicia also made me laugh. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. There's a lot. Something that we didn't really say, but I think should be brought up is like this town that they're in, this fictional town of Lahunga. Instead of Laguna Beach, it's Lahunga Beach. It's primarily, if not only, gay couples or just gay people in general, except for this one person who is, what was her name? Candy Ling, who is I think Rick's friend or something. I don't know, but she's constantly trying to get with all these men, but it's a predominantly, if not entirely, homosexual town.
Yes. And so they get on the cruise ship, and of course she snuck on board. Like she's a stowaway. Yeah. And she's got the hots for Hunter, who is gay, but she is also Asian. So she's hoping that that'll make up for it because like Hunter's not having any other luck. So she's kind of just like, well, I can try to look like a boy.
Yeah.
Like, she's just trying her hardest. It almost works for her.
Almost.
There's
also a mommy boot camp thing going on too with Kirsten and Dana, where it's one of those, like they give you an artificial baby to take care of, and it's on some kind of like device so they'll know when you're not taking care of it or whatever. And so they get this one and they're just like, why does our baby look different than all the others? But they don't really pay any mind to it past that. And they just keep going with it. And it's basically just this little black box with the red light on it. And anytime it's blinking, I guess that means it's like crying or needs attention or something, supposedly.
Yeah, the lady putting on the class was hilarious because she's so mean. And I like when she just says, like, if you're deemed unfit, your kids will be criminals.
Yeah.
And so Kirsten's freaking out like the entire trip and will not leave that thing alone. To the point she gets obsessive and won't leave her cabin with it and stuff because she's afraid she's going to do something. While she just stays in there, all kinds of other shenanigans happen. Like
they keep doing this like at the front of the ship, like, I'm king of the world. I'm king of the world.
Yeah, they're taking turns.
Just taking turns doing it.
Line. I like that. I've seen people do that too on cruises, which is kind of funny. I may have done it. I'm just.
You've also got these. They're just like at one point they're just like heave ho, and then someone's like heave adult sex worker.
Yes. There's so many like goofy jokes in there. Like, man, they throw in jokes like every 5 seconds.
I know a lot of it's one-liners, but it's just so good. Like somehow the story still works, even though it's very it's disjointed and there's all these jokes thrown into it, but it's still like coherent enough to where you get the story, you get the idea of what's going on.
I do love the situation and everything that happens because of it in this one, where like the ship hits an iceberg outside of Mexico and they're just like, oh, we heard Mexican icebergs are the most dangerous of all.
Yeah. My abuela used to say Mexican icebergs are the most dangerous of all.
And like the Titanic, the story where you got the musicians that as the ship sank, they just kept playing, to try to keep people a little calmer and stuff. Well, here you got like these 3 like DJs just throw up their turntables on the deck while it starts going, and it's like, I thought that was great. They got stuck on the iceberg instead of like actually sinking, which was also good.
And the escape boats are made of marzipan, like the candy.
They're just for show.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This whole time they're just like, we could fix the ship if we could find the flux capacitor, which is obviously a Back to the Future reference, but they're looking for this flux capacitor, which they cannot find. They don't know where it is, but that's all they need to fix it.
Yeah, that would give their communications so they can be rescued.
Yeah,
that's what they need to be able to radio someone. So they can't communicate with anybody. They're stuck there. The bartender's like, well, until we're rescued or die, it's $1 off mixed drinks. And everyone starts cheering. They're like, yeah. In the meantime, they're trying to like come up with plans on what to do. Steve comes up with this idea of making a giant balloon big enough that somebody would see it, and all they have is condoms. So he wants to blow up all these condoms into this giant balloon, so they're noticed. But Hunter, who doesn't like Steve because he wants to get with Rick and has been trying the whole time, is like, well, I'm just going to build a raft. He gets the raft out there. Everybody takes Hunter's side. So Steve gets really upset. Once Hunter gets that raft out there, he's immediately eaten by an orca whale.
Yeah, yeah.
That might have been my favorite part. I was just dying because I didn't see that coming. It was just one of those goofy jokes out of nowhere. And then it's kind of like everyone's like, oh, and then life just kind of goes on and they just go back to what they're doing.
Right. And they're just like, oh no, we're all out of booze on the ship. And then this one guy is just like, we're all going to die. And he comes up a couple times. Yeah. Okay. So eventually they do, or, Steve is able to launch his giant nitrous oxide filled condom balloon up into the sky to look for help. And his helicopter comes by and he's like, all right, we got their attention. And then the helicopter's just like, wait, what is that? And they just like run into this giant balloon thing and crash. But it's because of them crashing that this other helicopter comes in to rescue, to try to find this helicopter and save them. And then they are the ones who end up saving them. So Steve's like, well, see, my idea worked. If it wasn't for them crashing, this other crew wouldn't have come and helped.
Exactly. It's such a good roundabout way of pulling that off. I love it.
Oh, and the guy screams like, we're all going to live after the helicopter comes.
Yeah, I like that reoccurring thing, and then he changes it up at the end, but he's still screaming like he's in terror.
And we should mention that the eye baby Kirsten and Dana had ended up being the flux capacitor, and that's why it was malfunctioning the whole time, because they just had this random ship part that they needed to communicate.
Well, I like to, because the lady that puts on the class, whose name I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's just the name of an herb or a plant.
Hold on. Her name was Arugula.
Arugula, yes. So Arugula was mean to her like the whole time. And then Arugula's like, oh, I guess I gave you the flux capacitor by mistake. Like that's a really common thing to happen.
Yeah.
And Kirsten just goes nuts and tries to like strangle her to death.
Yeah. My real baby could have died because of you. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That was awesome. At the very end where they had kind of the tie up, like the moral of the story sort of thing, where Rick is just like, when it all came down to it, like we all made a pretty good family and worked together. And Steve's like, no, we didn't. No one helped me.
Yeah, no one helped me. So the last episode we watched for today's show was Swallowing Pride, season 2, episode 5, which was the highest rated. And in this one, Chuck pays for the whole gang to go to Pride Weekend in San Francisco, where they are chased by a queer mob.
This gets so ridiculous. Like, as if the other one wasn't ridiculous. This one just keeps getting more and more. Chuck cashed in his life insurance so he could, quote unquote, live, because he wanted to do things on his bucket list. So he gets everyone tickets to go to the, like you said, the Pride Parade in San Francisco, which everyone's like, the motherland.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
It's like the mecca of gay pride parade.
My favorite joke in this whole episode, there's so many good jokes, but this one, just because it wasn't the normal kind of joke and it didn't fit anything else and it came out of nowhere and I thought it was funny. was you got these people, once they're in San Francisco, like every once in a while someone keeps coming back by and they're like, you got any change? Someone homeless or something like that. It happens a couple times, and finally Evan just yells, change comes from within.
Yeah.
That was so good. I loved it. The baby's born by now.
Oh yeah,
Dixie. And it's Rick and Steve's turn to care for her, because since it is technically Rick's offspring, then they wanted a chance of being able to take care of her, they're going back and forth basically.
Yeah, so basically the people in San Francisco are kind of like the non-conforming hipsters of the gay world. And so when these guys come in, these two couples come in, they are so against them because they're either not queer enough or too queer in a way that doesn't please them. So,
well, I remember they were trying to kind of explain it to the one guy and his head explodes.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny, especially because there's been no violence through this whole show. And then all of a sudden, boom, aside from an orca eating somebody, but that was a really quick jump. Right. And that's done. But yeah, that was, they made it really gory and it was just funny.
So it's like lesbian moms are total cliches.
Yep.
Queer it used to be derogatory, but now it's not derogatory anymore.
I did though, when they got into the argument with, it wasn't even so much an argument. It was a straight dude was kind of there with everybody and just kind of chimed in at one point about the word gay. And he's just he's like, gay was our word and you guys stole it. And then we took it back. And they're like, you didn't take it back. We still say gay. He's like, no, gay. And now gay means retarded. And I was just like, oh, my God.
There was one point where Evan and Chuck were Chuck wanted to, since he's trying to cross things off his bucket list, he wanted to, I can't remember if it was sing on stage or something.
Oh, he wanted to sing the national anthem.
That's what it was. He wanted to sing the national anthem. And so he was trying to get these tickets. And then they're like, well, he's got HIV and he's dying. And they're like, okay, go into that line over there. And the tickets are more expensive for the HIV and dying line.
And there's still a long line.
Yeah.
But what they did is it was at a baseball game or something. And they snuck down to the dressing room where Carrie Underwood was going to go and perform. And Chuck puts on a dress and a wig and he's still in his wheelchair and stuff. And goes out and sings the national anthem still sounding like Chuck, and Carrie Underwood's just tied up in the locker room.
He wants to make out with George Michael, and so he's able to make that happen.
Yeah, they lure him with medical marijuana or something, and then he got to make out with it. I think he faked he needed CPR or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. They are looking for, are they saying they must seek the Ancient One?
Oh, yeah. The other group, Rick, Steve, Dixie, Dana, Kirsten, are being told to go see the Ancient One,
who is the oldest homosexual in the world.
Yeah, because they're on the run from that mob. They go into hiding, and they do this whole World War II Nazis and Jews parallel there, where it's they're hiding in this den of straight people, but when these, it's almost like gay police come in, they all have to act gay.
Yeah.
But the right amount of gay while the actual gays hide.
Right.
It's so ridiculous. And the guy that was helping them was named Harry Tubman.
Oh, this whole time, too, the mayor has been...
Yes, the mayor is great.
Doing an introduction speech or a welcome speech, but he's just been naming the different labels that that gay people go by, or, gays, lesbians...
Through the whole episode,
bisexual, all that, and it's he's listing so many of them, and the entire episode is basically devoted to him doing that. It'll cut back to him. He'll still be naming off different labels, and it's just funny to see that.
Voiced by George Takei.
Oh, okay, yeah,
which is awesome.
I did see that he played some voices in here.
Yeah, he did a lot of voices in this. I'm sure he had a great time doing that one.
Yeah,
it seems like one he would like. They find the Ancient One.
They do find the Ancient One. One of the things on Chuck's list is also to, I think, hang glide.
Yes.
And they goes to this one hang glide place, and it's $85 or something. I can't remember the price, but they're like, ugh,
it's
no.
$5.
And then they turn around and there's one that's $5. So they go to that one.
Yes.
And this hang glider has holes in it and stuff. It looks terrible. And this guy can barely speak English. He's just like, yes, $5. The last thing on Chuck's list ended up like he turned it over to the back and it was like spend 30 years with Evan. They made a joke out of that too, where they're like, I don't know, 30 years is a long time.
He like crosses part of it off.
Yeah, he crosses the 0 out and it turns to 3 years, but he's like, can you do a little sooner? And he's like, he crosses out the 3 and then writes a 2. He's like, all right. Or no, Evan writes in the 2. That's what it is.
Because Evan gets his inheritance. Supposedly, Evan gets the inheritance. So
right. So he's trying to make the whole episode. He's trying to make Chuck not spend all this money because the more he spends now, the less inheritance he gets. Yeah.
Yeah. The others find the Ancient One, who is Bruce Vandersnatch, the oldest gay in the world.
He says he's 33.
This is hilarious. But he looks like an old man, and that's great.
Yeah.
He is sick of the like gay elite in San Francisco, and he wants it to start over basically. So he's got like this big missile and he's going to nuke it. And, the others are like horrified because he's going to kill all these people and they want to stop him. So he ties them up and stuff, but then he unties the baby because even though he's going to kill all of them, he was just like, I shouldn't murder a baby. That could be perceived as rude.
Yeah.
And then there's a knife on like where they're being held and they're like trying to coax the baby to bring the knife to them, which she does. But the baby stabs Dana right in the leg. And Steve's like, yeah, good baby.
Yeah. At one point, like they say the bomb is triggered by the microphone, so it has to stay on. And then that guy comes back who's like, we're all going to die.
Yeah, I forgot he came back again.
Right. And that goes on. Someone goes on to say, like, we're all stereotypes here. Like, stereotypes are what brought us together. Cliches brought us together. Yeah, Steve said that.
Yeah, and I liked that message. They're just like, you know what? It's okay to be cliche. It's okay to be a stereotype because you're just being yourself. And if yourself is kind of cliche, then that's exactly how you should be. So, yeah, that was a nice thing. And San Francisco did not get destroyed.
No. Yeah.
So that's good. And then there was a song it's about San Francisco at the end.
And loving San Francisco. And also, they said San Francisco is about accepting all of us, even the ones you're ashamed of. Well, Chris, it looks like it's about time for our inner kids to come out of the closet and tell us what they thought of Rick and Steve, the happiest gay couple in all the world.
I'm not sure I was supposed to watch this show, but it had lots of jokes. I just didn't really understand all of them. But everyone seems really happy, like they're having a good time. Especially Chuck. He's my favorite. And it taught me that I should just be myself, even if I'm cliche. So I decided I will embrace it when the teacher says I act like a stereotypical future serial killer. I love cereal. So I gave this show 4 bowls of Orca Food cereal out of 5.
Oh boy, where do I even begin? First off, it should go without saying that kids should definitely not be watching this show, so shame on you for showing this to us. Shame! That said, as inappropriate as it was, it still ended up being pretty hilarious. The characters had a ton of personality, and after a while I got so into the stories, I looked at them more as real-life couples than I did animated Duplo figures. Overall, I give Rick and Steve, the happiest gay couple in all the world, 4 big bowls of cute from afar but far from cute cereal out of 5, and I do recommend it, but only for adults. In closing, I don't think I've ever laughed so hard at a joke about AIDS. Coincidentally, I also don't think I've ever felt so terrible about laughing at a joke, period. It kind of went something like, ha ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, ah.
Yeah, there was a lot of shame laughing to be had watching this one. But like, if I suppose though, if they are, they want people to laugh, so I guess you shouldn't feel ashamed of it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like you're not laughing at someone, you're laughing with them, and they're animated Duplo figures, so it really kind of takes away from the seriousness of it.
That's a very good point. I don't know that this would have worked otherwise.
Yeah, live action, I kind of would have felt a bit different, but no, it works completely in this form. But again, only for adults. Do not show your kids.
Definitely not. So with that said, do you have any final thoughts on Rick and Steve, the happiest gay couple in all the world?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love the title still. Like, that's just great to say.
Yeah,
Rick
the title is
Steve,
one of the best parts.
Rick and Steve, the happiest gay couple in all the world. I just think that it was a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be, a lot less serious than I thought it was going to be, very raunchy. Like, it was raunchy to the point where it's like sometimes got uncomfortable. But again, because it's these weird, like funny looking animated figures, it's like, it wasn't to the point where I ever thought about turning it off or anything. I wanted to see the stories all the way through, and they were really comical, and obviously they're exaggerations, but in a great way. So I think if it's something that if you have kind of, not even if you have a raunchy sense of humor, but at least if you're able to deal with that kind of humor in moderation, then I think it's something you should check out. Give one episode a shot, especially the first episode, because I still feel like that was probably the raunchiest of all. Check that one out. If you like it, continue on, because the episodes just kept getting funnier and funnier to me. It's not for everyone, but I think there is a certain audience for it, for sure.
Yeah, you know, like I could see this airing on something like Comedy Central, like late at night, or Adult Swim or something. I think it would have a good home there.
Yeah. It seems like it would fit right along with like Moral Oral.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me so much of that, which is funny since we mentioned that, I think, on the last episode.
That's true.
But like you, I wasn't really sure what to expect with this other than the obvious. And it was a little raunchy, even for me at some points, mainly during that first episode, because there's very specific parts that I was just like, oh, no. So I wasn't that excited after watching that first episode, but by the second one we watched, I feel like it really had hit its stride already, and I was really enjoying it. The jokes relied a lot less on shock value and more on genuine humor, because this show is genuinely funny. So it became a show where, you know, I don't think I would go out of my way to watch more, but if I was flipping through the channels and saw it on Comedy Central or Adult Swim or something like that, I would totally watch it.
Yeah, definitely. So whoever suggested this to us or however we heard about it, thank you.
Thanks. Whoever, mystery, I don't know. Maybe it was the gay community. The spirit of the gay community had us watch this.
The gay community as a whole suggested this.
As a whole, and we appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. This was from the bottom of our suggestion list, right? Was it one of those?
Yes, this was the lowest voted one.
Okay.
On our list, which is a shame because it's so funny.
It is, but I really think it's one of those that not a lot of people have heard about, and I could see why. It had a very short runtime or airtime, and it was on a very specific channel that I had never even heard of. So yeah, I could see how it would have gone under people's radar for sure. But now that we brought it up, again, check it out if you are the kind of person who would like something like that.
Absolutely.
Well, listeners, it looks like our milk supply is now run dry, so it's time for us to say goodbye. Next week, we'll be watching
Sonic the Hedgehog, but the other Sonic the Hedgehog, not the one we did previously. And this was suggested by Chris Perez via YouTube and at Donovan Love 2 via Twitter. So this was people wanted us to watch this. We had it recommended twice. It got a lot of votes up. And we'll do it. We're going to do it. So calm down. Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so to my recollection, this is the good Sonic cartoon, right?
Yeah, this is the one everyone considers the good one, like the Sat AM one.
Yeah,
is what they nicknamed it.
Oh,
so yes.
I guess it would be the Saturday morning one. I just now realized what Sat AM stood for.
Yes. So this is that one. This is the one that's supposed to not be terrible.
Perfect.
So,
yeah, I remember.
We'll see.
I remember I used to watch this one at least somewhat, and it was a lot more serious. That's why I thought it was a lot cooler than the other one we watched.
Yeah, like I don't know if I mixed the two of them together. I feel like I probably did, but I remember really liking Sonic the Hedgehog as a cartoon. When we watched the other one, I was like, this is terrible. So I'm really hoping that this is the one that it's going to change my opinion, because it got me really into chili dogs.
Well, once again, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
We'll see you next Saturday.
Presented by Nerdsloth,
a place for lazy nerds.
If you like what you heard, consider donating at patreon.com/nerdsloth so we can continue bringing you quality shows. Be sure to also leave us a review and share your favorite episodes and clips on social media. If you're looking for more content, visit us at nerdsloth.com.